It's the 26th of April, 1944. Over the cold, dark expanse of France, 21-year-old flight officer Fred Mifflin gripped the controls of his Lancaster Bomber. He was just one bird in a flock of over 200, hunting critical targets in Germany. But the German radar was already tracking their entire course. A specially adapted German Bf-110, armed with upward-firing guns, silently slipped beneath an unsuspecting Lancaster and unleashed its cannons. In Miff's cockpit, the crew saw a searing flash to their left. The distinct outline of a comrade's Lancaster, now ablaze, illuminated the night sky. The 7-man crew could only watch, horrified, as one of their own plummeted. Many Lancasters would be lost this same stealthy way tonight. As they neared the target zone, Miff's voice came over the intercom. "Get ready, men. Coming close." Flight engineer Norman Jackson instantly flipped his seat up as the bomb aimer scrambled forward. Flak exploded nearby, illuminating the darkness with fire as they approached the German factories. The bomber lurched violently, and a cry sliced through the static. "We're hit!" Shrapnel had shredded the wing, but Miff's voice was a lifeline. "Don't worry, boys. I've still got her under control." 60 seconds. Flares dropped by the Pathfinders now bathed the target in an eerie glow. "There's the spot, bomb aimer. The plane is yours." The bomb aimer lined up the flares in his sight and hammered the release. "Bombs away!" Fire bloomed across the factory complex below. Miff wrestled the plane into a hard turn, heading for home. Alone in the darkness was their only prayer, but at altitude, German radar easily tracked the massive British planes, guiding a squadron of night terrors, FW-190, butcher birds, specifically adapted for the hunt. Receiving guidance from the ground, an FW-190 pilot quickly spotted the lumbering shape in the bright moonlight. The perfect night for a kill. The Lancaster's underslung radar left the top completely exposed. The German pilot nosed his fighter down, seeing the bomber drift into his sights. "I have you now." He closed to 50 meters, pressed the trigger, and unleashed a full torrent of cannon and machine gun fire that snaked toward the bomber's tail. "I'm hit." German 20mm shells had shredded the tail, and gunner Norman Johnson was badly injured. "There is another." The Lancaster's remaining turrets erupted in return, but the German disengaged, pulling up and vanishing into the gloom. "Keep them peeled, boys. He's out there somewhere." The FW-190 reappeared, raking a burst along the bomber's length, punching through the fuselage and striking the right wing. With his tail gunner gone, Miff knew he had to save them. "Hold on, men!" He slammed the giant bomber into a terrifying, tight corkscrew maneuver, a desperate attempt to shake the Predator. Miff was a skilled pilot, but the nimble FW-190 was a machine designed for this fight, clinging to the Lancaster as it fired again. A shell exploded near the cockpit, peppering flight engineer Norman Jackson's legs with shrapnel. He gasped in pain, but as he did, he saw the cockpit illuminate. Fire was gushing from the cannon strikes in the wing, right next to the engine. "We're on fire!" The remaining turret poured fire at the FW-190, which disengaged and disappeared again. "Bandit's gone!" Not for long. Jackson ignored his throbbing legs, his eyes locked on the expanding flames. If the fire burned too long, the wing would snap or the fuel tank would explode. A crazy, impossible idea seized him. "Toft! Higgins, come over!" Ignoring his wounds, Jackson told them his plan. "I can go out there." "Where?" He planned to crawl outside along the wing to extinguish the fire. The crew would hold him only by his parachute lines. The men were stunned. "That's certain death," Jackson calmly prepared, explaining, "I may be able to put the fire out. If I do, you should be able to drag me back in. And if I don't, and I get blown over the wing, then just feed the parachute out best you can." "What do you think, Miff?" Mifflin was shocked, speechless, but Jackson was already shrugging off his injuries and unfurling his chute. Without time for debate, The bomb aimer and navigator gripped the lines, and Jackson moved to the hatch. "Ready? Ready." The hatch came off. A freezing, deafening whoosh filled the bomber. Miff slowed the plane as much as he dared, but they were still hurtling at 180 miles an hour at 18,000 feet. Undeterred, Jackson slid himself out into the brutal airstream. Did you believe that Jackson would actually attempt to climb out onto the wing? This unbelievable heroism is why these stories must be remembered. Outside, the wind slammed and buffeted Norman Jackson's body. He used an escape axe, jamming its spike through the aircraft's skin for support, fully emerging from the compartment and clinging for dear life. The crew slowly fed out the parachute line as Jackson stretched down for the wing, the fire lighting his terrifying path. With colossal effort, he crawled to the leading edge, then shuffled toward the flames using only his hands and the axe. Fueled by adrenaline, he got close. One-handed, he pulled the extinguisher, the heat of the metal searing through his glove. He shoved the nozzle through the cannon strike and squeezed. The flames began to subside. "He's doing it! It's working!" His hands burned, but he persisted, and miraculously the flames receded until they were completely out. The fire was extinguished. He was going home to see his son, who was born just hours before this mission. But up above, the enemy pilot saw the fire vanish. The FW-190 drifted down once more, unleashing another volley that slammed into Jackson's leg and right shoulder. He screamed into his mask just as the fuel tank beneath him cracked open. Fuel sprayed into the air, followed by a ball of flame that erupted all around him. He was ripped from the wing, his body swinging wildly in the airstream. Inside, the crew felt his weight as the lines tensed. "He's gone from the wing! We'll never get him back now! We've got to let him go." They released him. Jackson and his parachute were instantly sucked out into the night and set alight by the fireball. The critically hit Lancaster groaned and lurched, plummeting rapidly. Mifflin fought the controls, keeping her level as long as he could. "Dropping below 7,000 feet. Get out of here." The crew rushed the escape hatch. "Johnson won't survive the jump, Miff." "I hear you, Smith. Bail out." Smith was forced to abandon the critically wounded tail gunner and jumped with the rest. Mifflin, unable to abandon his friend Norman Johnson, too injured to survive a jump, made a final, desperate decision to attempt a crash landing. "Norman, I'm landing the plane, you hear me?" "I hear you, Miff." That heroic final act failed, and both men lost their lives when the flaming Lancaster hit the ground. Meanwhile, a flaming parachute wheeled and flapped. Incredibly, Norman Jackson was still alive. He hit the ground hard, smoke rising from his flight suit. Bushes had broken his fall, but the impact shattered both his ankles. His hands were charred, his legs riddled with wounds, and a bullet was lodged in his shoulder. "Help!" Harnessing his remaining strength, Jackson crawled toward a distant farmhouse. He was captured and sent to a German POW camp with an Allied hospital, where he made a full recovery. The 5 men who bailed out also survived and were liberated in 1945. Jackson finally went home and met the son born the night of his mission. Later that year, he was awarded the Victoria Cross for his actions. Upon hearing the news, his immediate reaction was, "What the hell for?" Norman Cyril Jackson passed away peacefully on March 26, 1994. The selflessness shown by both Jackson and Mifflin under impossible pressure defines true heroism.